Do you have an online account with Amazon? Would you like to take a few precautions to help keep your account from being hijacked? Well, stay tuned. I'm going to take you through 3 steps that will help you prevent that from happening. Now let's get started. Welcome to another edition of Tech Bites with Ron Nutter, your home for all things relating to smart home technology. In this episode, we're going to be talking about implementing two-step authentication with Amazon. Hi, I'm Ron Nutter, and we will be working on this together. This content is also available as an Amazon flash briefing or podcast. Please go to techbiteswithronnutter.com for more information. For any items mentioned in this episode, there are affiliate links in the description. If you click on these, I will get a small commission, but that won't affect the price you pay for the item. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please click on that subscribe button now and enable notifications. If this video helps you or provides value, please click on that like button, thumbs up. Here's what we're going to be covering. First thing is creating a strong password. Without a strong password, the best two-step or two-factor authentication system is really not going to be that helpful. Once we've gone over that, then we'll be talking about setting up an SMS or text message two-step authentication process, and then we'll show at the last how to set up a soft token two-step or two-factor authentication. Now, let's get started. Now, I want to stop things for just a minute before we get started with what we're working on in this video, and that's to go over a few steps in helping you create a strong password. Now, I know I'm one of the first ones to admit I hate having to think up a new password. And now, because of all the different hacking vulnerabilities and there's people out there trying to get into your account, the key thing is you don't have to make it easy for them. Make it just difficult enough that they'll move on to somebody who's not going to be as well prepared as you are after you go through this part of the process. Now, I'm going to switch over to my smartphone, and I've already got the screen up here that I would be using in Bitwarden to set up a new account. Now, here's a couple of ways you can do it. Now, when you're entering the password, you just tap on that field, on-screen keyboard comes up, you got this, you know how to enter a password. But if you are like me, you sometimes fall into the same rut of creating, well, let's say either the same password or one very close to it. If you're in a city with a major sports team, like I'll pick on Kansas City with the Chiefs, and you might go Chiefs 2020. Well, that's going to be fairly common. If somebody knows where you live, that's one more piece of information they've got to make it a little easier for them to guess your password. So there's a couple of ways around that. First, we can go into, we'll tap the little, what looks like a refresh icon, and that's going to bring up a password generator. This is something Bitwarden has built in, and you're going to hear me talk about Bitwarden a lot. That's because I'm doing a lot of videos on their product. They're not paying for that one. I just found a good product, and I'm going with it. But it also can help you take away some of the less pleasant tasks of creating a password. So by default, it's set up for 14 characters, which the rule of thumb is the more characters you have in the password, the longer it's going to take for someone to break it. And then if you have a mixture of uppercase, lowercase, numbers, if you have special characters. Now, this is where you'll see some sites say special characters. They will think asterisk is a special character. Well, I consider it sometimes punctuation, or if you do an apostrophe or double quote. Anything you do outside of what a standard word would be, and this will be something you'll hear about called a dictionary attack, and that is something that you want to avoid. Anything that somebody can look up in a dictionary, you don't want to be using as a password. Even if you make a few little alterations to it, still, they're going to be prepared for some of that. So let's go back here, and what we'll do is you may have to experiment with this on the website you're doing with. Now, the same functionality that's in the smartphone app is also in the desktop. But just the smartphone app gives me some flexibilities on showing this to you a little bit. So by default, that's what you'll see it when it comes up in. So it has that disabled. There are some websites that don't like those characters being used. Don't know why. Would love to have an explanation. So if you're running a website and you won't accept those kind of characters, please reach out to me. Help me understand, and I will pass it on to everybody who watches this channel. So you can specify the minimum number of characters. You can specify the minimum number of special characters. So if we turn on special characters and we crank it up, well, you can start seeing we can really add some perceived difficulties. And as you scroll down here, and you can, now one thing you want to make sure you check on this, and that's to disable what is called ambiguous characters. That's a big word, but what it really amounts to is there are certain letters and numbers that look almost the same depending on the font that your computer is using. For example, 1 and lowercase l. Those can look very close and be very hard to distinguish. The letter O and 0, primarily capital O and 0. Again, two that are very close alike, and unless you're used to that font or know some of its quirks, you may not catch it. So this is where you can have something in here and you can tell it to avoid those. So you're saving yourself some headache. Now, you've gone through the whole process. You've got a password that, well, let's put it this way. It's probably, you're going to have a hard time remembering. And that in a way is a good thing. I'll explain that here in just a minute. So when you are done, you can just tap on select. It pastes it in. And you can verify just by clicking on the little eyeball icon. And that's what we just had on the other screen. Now, if you want an extra level of precaution, what you can do is click on the check mark that's on here. And it will look to see if that password's been found in any known databases of passwords that have been breached. Again, you shouldn't ever find one this ugly, this difficult in there. Now, next you're going to say is, but Ron, I now have to enter this thing, and this is going to be a pain to keyboard. You're right, it is. But there are ways around that. So what you can do is go in and have Bitwarden or whatever you're using as password manager. If you look at Bitwarden and you decide that's not for you, there are others out there. But you can use a copy and paste function in whatever password manager that you choose to copy that password and paste it over. Now, here's the positive with that is that when you are doing that, and we will go ahead and we'll tap save. Okay, name's not occurred. Okay, well, that's fine. What we can do is we'll turn off. See, when you go to copy and paste, then you're going to just see dots. So if somebody happens to be looking over your shoulder and trying to guess your password, ask them to kind of step off a little bit because they don't really need to know your password. So when you copy and paste from here, you can do it. You can either have Bitwarden or whatever your password manager is, copy that over. If you don't want to have the app installed, then there are browser extensions, at least from Bitwarden. Can't speak to the others. So that is something that will be an alternative. But again, you want your passwords as long as you can bear and as difficult as you think is appropriate, because that way the more you can increase the level of difficulty, the more you can lessen your exposure to being hacked. Okay, so now that we're ready to get started here, let's go ahead and switch over to the Amazon website. And I've already signed in as the account, so we'll click on Login and Security after clicking on your account and then Login and Security. So we'll click on Edit, click on Get Started. Now, by default, it already should have this number. We're going to enter it in to make sure that it's picking up the right one, and we'll click on Continue. And we should have a message here momentarily. Amazon's pretty good about getting this through. So 223364. And legacy sign-in method. So it has, basically there are ways that if you're getting a problem logging in, and it may not, the device you're on may have a problem with picking up in a secondary screen. So what you can do, and this is the way I used to have to do it years ago when they first started putting two-factor in, although sometimes they didn't really tell you it was two-factor. You would enter your password in, and then you would append the value that you would have gotten on your phone. So that way it's at least a way of getting it. And this screen goes over in pretty good detail. Okay, so as you can see, we've got this all up and running. You've got your phone being used as an SMS device. So this is option one on how to get it done. Okay, now we'll go on to doing the soft token. So we're just going for the same steps we did before. So we'll go into login and security, and we'll go down here to two-factor verification settings, and we will add phone or authenticator app. Now, again, on the screen, they're showing a QR code. So the first thing that you want to go do is, with your smartphone, capture a picture of that, because you're going to need it. And see, when it says can't scan QR code, all right, they're doing this differently. So things have changed a little bit. So first we'll go through here and we'll take a picture, and that way you can put this in OneNote, Evernote, something separate from where you normally keep things. Now, if it can't scan the code, because at this point we've got Bitwarden off to the side here. So we've got that. So we're going to go over here to Bitwarden, and at this point my session has timed out for security purposes. And we will click add, and we'll call this Amazon. And oops, don't forget the now one-time key. This is where we come back here and we want to grab that, and we'll copy, go over here to Bitwarden, paste it in, and then we will just enter this in here just to be on the safe side. Shouldn't have to, but you know, it is what it is. All right, so we'll okay, so now you see it's already figured out the code, so we'll just copy that, and because we got it back over here, and Amazon's got to verify that we've got a good setup on our side, and then we will click verify one-time password and continue. Okay, so that's up and running. So let's go ahead and we will click sign out here, and then we'll continue, and okay, password. Now, if we didn't receive the one-time password, this is where we can switch over to entering the password from the authenticator app. Now we'll go back over here to Bitwarden. We've already got that copied, and we will click sign in, and Bob's your uncle. So as you can see, this is, we've got two different ways to get this up and running. And especially when you've got things that you do e-commerce with, whether it's Amazon, Newegg, whatever, this is a good way to keep things protected. So you can't be too safe with protecting your account, because especially if you store credit cards on there, and there's a whole discussion that we could have over that you want to make sure that your information is protected as possible. So if you're watching this video on YouTube, and at this point you probably are, you're going to see videos on the screen that are similar to the one you've just watched, or other content that YouTube thinks that you might be interested in. If this video helps you or provides value, please click on that like button, thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please click on subscribe now and enable notifications. We'll see you in the next episode, and thank you for watching.